100 people. Different countries, different backgrounds, different ages. 12 months ago, their lives looked completely ordinary. Some built online businesses, some created audiences of hundreds of thousands of people, some replaced their full-time income, and a few built companies worth millions. The most surprising part, most of them started with almost nothing. No audience, no investors, no special connections, just a laptop, an internet connection, and a decision. Over the last 3 months, I studied 100 people who escaped the traditional path and built income using the internet, AI, content, and digital products. I wanted to understand what separated the people who succeeded from the millions who never get started. Because every day, millions of people search for the same thing: how to make money online, how to create freedom, and how to build a life on their own terms. Yet most never get there. What do the people who succeed understand that everyone else seems to miss? After studying their journeys, I discovered 7 patterns, 7 lessons, 7 mindset shifts that appeared again and again among the people who changed their lives. And in the next 7 chapters, you'll learn the exact principles that helped them build businesses, create freedom, and take control of their future. Because the biggest obstacle wasn't money. It wasn't talent. It wasn't education. It wasn't opportunity. It was something far more dangerous. Something that quietly stops most people before they ever begin. And that's exactly where our story starts. The first thing I noticed after studying these people was surprisingly simple. None of them waited until they felt ready. The biggest myth in self-improvement and entrepreneurship is the belief that successful people started with confidence while everyone else struggled with doubt. The reality is the exact opposite. Almost every person I studied described a period of uncertainty before they began. They worried about failing, wasting time, looking foolish, or making the wrong decision. Yet they started anyway. Psychologists often refer to this as analysis paralysis, the tendency to overthink a decision until no action is taken at all. And it's one of the biggest reasons people stay stuck. Think about it. How many people spend years watching business videos, saving courses, reading books, and planning their future without ever launching a single project? They convince themselves they need more information before they can begin. But the people who succeed understand something different. Clarity comes from action, not preparation. Consider the story of Sara Blakely, who started Spanx with just $5,000 and no experience in fashion or business. Or Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, who built Apple in a garage long before they knew what the company would eventually become. They weren't ready, they simply started. The same pattern appeared again and again in the people I studied. Their lives didn't change when they found the perfect strategy. Their lives changed the moment they stopped waiting for certainty and took the first step. Because the truth is that confidence isn't something you have before you begin. Confidence is something you earn after you've already started. And for almost everyone who escaped, that first uncomfortable step became the most important decision they ever made. When I started analyzing these success stories, one pattern appeared so frequently that it became impossible to ignore. The people escaping traditional work weren't necessarily smarter or more hardworking than everyone else. They simply had access to tools that dramatically increased their productivity. And those tools were powered by AI. For decades, building a business often required specialized skills, expensive software, or an entire team of people. If you wanted to create content, you needed writers, designers, editors, and marketers. Today, one person can do the work that once required an entire department. AI can help generate ideas, write outlines, create graphics, edit videos, and automate repetitive tasks in a fraction of the time. According to industry reports, businesses around the world are rapidly adopting AI because it increases efficiency and reduces the amount of time spent on routine work. But here's the important part. The most successful people weren't using AI to replace effort. They were using it to multiply effort. Instead of spending 10 hours on a task, they could complete it in 2. Instead of learning a skill for 6 months before taking action, they could start building immediately while learning along the way. Consider a faceless YouTube creator who uses AI to research topics, generate scripts, create voiceovers, and edit videos. A process that once took days can now take hours. The same is true for freelancers, digital product creators, and online business owners. The technology didn't guarantee success, but it gave them leverage. And leverage changes everything. Throughout history, every major technological shift created opportunities for the people who adopted it early. The internet did it. Smartphones did it. Social media did it. And now AI is doing the same. The question isn't whether AI will change the way people work. It already has. The real question is whether you'll be one of the people who learns to use it, or one of the people watching from the sidelines while others do. After studying dozens of people who successfully built income online, I expected to find hundreds of different strategies. Instead, I found something surprising. Nearly every success story could be traced back to one of three paths. Different people, different personalities, different backgrounds, but the same three models appeared again and again. The first path was digital products, things like ebooks, templates, guides, online courses, and digital resources. The appeal is obvious. You create something once and can sell it repeatedly without worrying about inventory, shipping, or physical production. Every sale costs almost nothing to deliver. The second path was faceless content creation. These creators built audiences on platforms like YouTube without ever showing their faces. They focused on providing value through storytelling, education, entertainment, or information. Once an audience was built, they monetized through ads, sponsorships, affiliate marketing, or their own products. Some channels grew to hundreds of thousands of subscribers while remaining completely anonymous. The third path was AI-powered services. Instead of creating products, these individuals helped businesses solve problems. They offered services such as content creation, video editing, social media management, marketing, or automation. AI allowed them to work faster and deliver more value than traditional freelancers. What made these three paths powerful wasn't just the income potential, it was accessibility. None required a large investment. None required a university degree. None required permission from anyone. They simply required learning a valuable skill and consistently applying it. And while each path looked different on the surface, they all shared one common principle: creating assets that continue generating value long after the initial work is completed. That's the idea most people miss. The goal isn't just to earn more money. The goal is to build something that keeps working even when you're not actively trading your time for it. And that's where the real transformation begins. At this point, I expected to find one path that clearly outperformed all the others. The best business model, the best platform, the best strategy. But that's not what I found. The people who achieved the fastest results weren't the ones who chose the perfect path. They were the ones who combined multiple paths into a system. For example, a creator would start a faceless YouTube channel and use it to attract attention. Instead of relying solely on ad revenue, they would create a digital product that solved a specific problem for their audience. Every video became free marketing. Every viewer became a potential customer. And AI helped manage the workload by speeding up research, content creation, and production. This combination created something incredibly powerful: leverage. One piece of content could generate views for years. One digital product could be sold hundreds or even thousands of times. The system continued working long after the original effort was completed. This is why some people appear to make money while they sleep. Not because they're lucky, not because they discovered a secret, but because they built systems instead of relying entirely on effort. Think about companies like Amazon or Netflix. Their success isn't based on working harder every day. It's based on systems that continue delivering value at scale. The same principle applies on a smaller level to creators and entrepreneurs. The people who escaped fastest stopped thinking like workers and started thinking like builders. They focused on creating assets rather than tasks. Assets that attract attention. Assets that solve problems. Assets that generate income. And once those assets begin working together, something remarkable happens. Progress no longer feels linear. It starts to compound, and that's where the journey becomes truly interesting. One of the biggest lies in the online business world is that success happens quickly. Social media is filled with screenshots, income reports, and overnight success stories that make it seem like results appear instantly. But when I studied the journeys of people who actually built sustainable income streams, the reality looked very different. The first 1 to 3 months were usually the hardest. Most people saw little to no results during this period. Videos received few views, products generated few sales, clients were difficult to find. From the outside, it looked like nothing was happening, but beneath the surface, something important was taking place. Skills were improving. Systems were being built. Content libraries were growing. Every piece of work was laying a foundation for future growth. This is where most people quit, not because the strategy failed, but because the rewards hadn't arrived yet. Then, somewhere between months 4 and 6, the first signs of progress began to appear. A video gained traction. A product made its first sale. A client referral arrived. Small wins started creating momentum. By months 7 through 12, many people experienced what seemed like sudden growth. But it wasn't sudden at all. It was the result of months of invisible effort finally becoming visible. This pattern can be seen everywhere. Most successful YouTube channels spend months uploading content before seeing significant growth. Many businesses operate at a loss before becoming profitable. Even famous entrepreneurs often spend years building before the public notices their success. What looks like an overnight success story is usually the final chapter of a much longer journey. The people who escaped weren't necessarily more talented than everyone else. They simply stayed in the game long enough to reach the point where compounding began to work in their favor. And that's the part most people never see because they quit before they get there. After studying the people who succeeded, I became curious about the people who didn't. Because if the tools are available, the opportunities are growing, and the barriers to entry are lower than ever. Why do so many people still fail? The answer wasn't a lack of intelligence, it wasn't a lack of resources, and it certainly wasn't a lack of information. In fact, we live in a time where more knowledge is available for free than at any other point in human history. The real difference came down to one word: consistency. Nearly everyone started with excitement. They watched the videos, they made the plans, they imagined the future they wanted. But somewhere along the way, reality arrived. The views were lower than expected. The sales didn't come immediately. The progress felt painfully slow. And that's when doubt took over. Most people interpreted the lack of immediate results as proof that the process wasn't working, so they stopped. What fascinated me was that the successful people experienced the exact same frustrations. They faced the same uncertainty, the same lack of results, and the same temptation to quit. The difference was that they didn't treat discomfort as a signal to stop. They treated it as part of the process. Research on habit formation and long-term achievement consistently shows that success is often less about motivation and more about persistence. Motivation comes and goes. Discipline remains. The people who escaped understood something that the majority never realized: consistency beats intensity. A person who works steadily for a year will almost always outperform someone who works obsessively for a month and then quits. That's why the gap between the 95% and the 5% is often much smaller than it appears. It's not a gap in talent, it's not a gap in intelligence. It's a gap in persistence. The people who succeeded simply kept showing up long enough for their efforts to compound. And while that sounds simple, it's exactly where most people fall behind. Everything you've heard in this video leads to one conclusion. The opportunity has never been greater, yet most people will never take advantage of it. Not because they can't, but because they won't. They'll keep waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, or the perfect level of confidence. Meanwhile, the people who succeed will do what they've always done: start before they're ready, and keep going when everyone else stops. That's exactly why this channel exists. Not to sell a fantasy, not to promise overnight success, and not to pretend that building something meaningful is easy. This channel is an experiment, a real-time documentation of what happens when someone decides to escape the 95% by applying the same principles you've seen throughout this video. Every strategy will be tested, every result will be shared, every mistake will be visible, because the internet is full of people showing the outcome, but very few are willing to show the process. The truth is that freedom isn't built in a single day. It's built through hundreds of small decisions made consistently over time. One video, one skill, one product, one improvement after another. And eventually those small actions become something bigger than anyone expected. A year from now, your life could look completely different. The tools exist, the information exists, the opportunity exists. The only question left is whether you'll be one of the people who watches from the sidelines or one of the people who takes action. Most people will finish this video and move on with their day. A small percentage will decide that today is the day they start. Those are the people this mission is for. Welcome to the 95 mission. The journey starts now.